One of the most important things that we teach at Unity is that we as individuals have choice. That we get to choose what we want to do, what we want to think, what attitude we might want to have. We have freedom to choose whatever it is in our lives. It is estimated that we make probably 5,000 choices a day. Most of those are probably unconscious and routine choices. But sometimes we are faced with a decision and we have to make a choice. You might feel sometimes that you don't have any choice. Like you might be stuck between that rock and that hard place. I don't have any choices. But there is always a choice. There is always another way or something else or another way of thinking about this in some fashion. Choice is the most powerful aspect of ourselves that we have. It's the most powerful spiritual talent that we have if we are willing to use it. When we don't make choice, we feel like we are choiceless or that things are happening to us and we don't have a choice in how these things unfold. Then we move into victim consciousness. We feel like a victim. And the most important thing to remember is no matter where you are, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what may be happening in your life, you are at choice. You can choose to do something differently. Sometimes that's difficult to accept because that means we have to assume some responsibility for where we are, for what might be happening. Assume some responsibility for the choices that we've made. But the power lies in the awareness that you can choose. So no matter what our conditions in life, you can choose the path that you wish to travel. Sometimes you think that path is just one path and that you're on that path and there's no way that you can change paths. Oh, of course you can. There are so many different paths available to us. Anyone can say, I'm going to get off this path and go on this one. I choose to let go of this one and move over here to this one. You can do it. You can choose to do it. Now, you might not have everyone agreeing with you. What? You're giving up that path? Yes, I am. I'm going over here. And you can do that. You have that ability to choose the path that you were on. A lot of times, though, we choose the one that's safe, that's familiar. The ground's already been broken. We, of course, have heard of the road less traveled and that whole option that we have that we can break new ground in new ways, new paths. You can choose the attitude with which you choose to look at life. And the attitude is really, really important. You know the glass is half full or the glass is half empty, but if the glass is half empty, how do you feel? Lousy, depressed. This is a horrible life. This is terrible. Nothing's ever working out right, and woe is me, and so on and so forth, and you move into victim consciousness. Versus if the glass is half full, it's full of opportunity, it's full of potential, it's full of all kinds of wonderful things that I can embark upon. You can choose the attitude that you have for anything that is in your life. And you can choose the perspective that you see as well. Am I looking at what is good in my life? Am I focusing on the good? Am I opening up to seeing new things? Or am I closing down and seeing only one way of being? We're able to choose the thoughts that we have, and we talk about that all of the time in New Thought Movements, that as you think, so you are, that you can change your thinking and change your life. Well, that's true. Not always very easy to do. But you have that choice. You can choose to look at things, think about things, do things in a different way. Now, sometimes it may seem difficult to make those better choices in life and to change all these things. There's a key. There's a key to doing that. And the key is that each one of us has the most powerful friend, the most important friend we can have. And that is God. God is our friend. God is our partner. God is everywhere present. God is always with us. Now, some of you may not like the word God, so we can just think of friend with a capital F. Spirit, divine presence. higher power, Jesus Christ, quantum self, universal consciousness, Brahman, the universe, the force, higher consciousness. Whatever you might want to call it is that power and presence that is always available to us. And it resides within us, providing all that we need. The strength, the courage, the resources, the guidance. It's always available to us if we are open to cultivating that friendship. You know that any friend that you might have, it takes a little work. You have to step out and maybe do some things. You have to say some things. You have to make the connections. You have to cultivate the relationship. And that is what I invite you to do, is cultivate the relationship with that friend within. First of all, when you do that, you will know that you are never alone. No matter what, you are never alone. It may seem like that around you, but you are not. You are always in the presence and power of Spirit. You know, the way you can sometimes think about that, if you've ever had someone very close to you die, or perhaps a pet, you've known that after that death, you have felt that presence. You have known it in your heart, but they're still with you. Multiply that by 1,000,000, and that's the presence of God within us. Always there, always available to us, if we open to that friendship. No matter what we are doing, no matter where we are. And the other thing you should know is that this friend, this inner indwelling God, is always there to love you. No matter what. No matter what you are doing, no matter what you have done, no matter how you would declare it as being good or bad or evil or excellent, it makes no difference. Whatever you are, whoever you are, God loves. And when you know that God is always giving you love, you can never be alone and you can never be without love. Ever. God is always present. And the third most important point to realize about this is that God is always there to help. Always there to help if you are open to cultivating this friendship. God is the best possible friend and partner you can have in life. And you have to be open to it. You have to be open. With God as our partner, and with God, you hear this all the time, with God all things are possible, and so it is true. So we have to develop this friendship. We have to develop this incredible relationship with this friend inside. And to do that, you know that you will have whatever it is you need to move forward in life. One of the great attributes of having this incredible friendship is that you have a power and a strength that is there for you to help you move forward in confidence and encourage. That strength is there. There's a wonderful little story that Mary Manning Morrissey talks about in her book, No Less Than Greatness. She talks about the fact that she was watching a TV series and it was about bears. And there was this little tiny cub bear whose mama died. And it was alone and it was lost and it was not likely to survive. They estimate that little cubs without the protector of a large mother or father might survive 48 hours because it's great food for all the other wonderful, marvelous animals in the area. So this poor little bear was just kind of going around not knowing exactly what to do, and this great, big, huge father potential grizzly bear, big male grizzly bear, huge, saw this little cub and decided to adopt. So over time, he started to teach little bear how to do things and whatnot. And it was a precious scene that this little bear might not die now. He was going to be taken care of. But one day, the two of them got separated. So little bear was a little nervous, but he was trying to, seemingly go about learning all the things that he'd learned and doing what he's supposed to do. He was trying to catch fish and so on. Then all of a sudden, he looked up, and there he could see, not far from him, a mountain lion. Oh. And he remembered this big father bear telling him what he needed to do. And so, he was petrified, but the little cub gets up and puts his little arms out and he goes, coming out with this little squeak. And all of a sudden, the mountain lion just turns around and runs away. And the little bear is obviously feeling quite strong. Well, the camera then pans over and you see several yards further down, the big Papa Bear is standing there like this. No doubt scaring that mountain lion away. But the little cub didn't see it. The little cub didn't. And it had the strength of the Papa Bear. That is exactly where we are with our friendship in God. That no matter how small or how insignificant or how little or how at a loss we might feel, we have that incredibly powerful friend behind us. And when you know that, you're going to be willing to stand up and do whatever it is that you need to do in order to move forward in your life. It breeds confidence. It breeds that knowingness that I have the strength of God behind me. And you do, if you are open to it, if you cultivate it. We can build this relationship that is so important. The other thing that God brings to us that I think, aside from the multitude of attributes, I want to focus on a couple. And that is, the second one is that God brings ideas. God brings ideas. Have you ever known a writer or a musician who have talked about the fact that they're not doing the writing or creating the music? It is though God is moving through them, and they are simply, it's just coming to them. Some will use the word channeling. Some will use all kinds of other words, but they say it's not me. It just comes to me. That is the divine spirit coming with great ideas, moving in and through us at all times. Those ideas, I think, are the gold coin of God. Because those ideas give us a new way of, oh, how about this? Or how about that? Or letting it move through us. And you have to be open to that voice or open to that idea to come in and come through you. And sometimes in order to really hear it, be with it, you need to stop and listen. That is why we so often advocate the spiritual principles of sitting, just being in silence, perhaps meditating, listening to that inner voice, being quiet rather than chatter. Well, I got to do this, I got to do that, what if I do this, what if I do that? And we start thinking, going on, and we just don't stop and listen. And when we do, new ideas will come forth, particularly if we ask Him, particularly if we have built this relationship with God, that we know how to listen and we know how we can hear. There's another great story. It's one of my favorite, again from Mary Manning Morrissey in her book, No Less Than Greatness. And I want to read this one to you. She says this: spiritual practice, she's talking about spiritual practice, means remembering God all day long. Remembering that you have that friend all day long, always with you. And when I'm in contact, I feel the nudges. When you get that guidance, when you get a new idea, when you get pushed along. I don't know why, I have to do this. I don't know why, I'm feeling this nudge. Perhaps you've all felt that sometimes, that nudge that comes forth. And when I disconnect from that, when resentments build and I snap at someone or judge harshly, then I'm numb to that inner voice. Then I don't hear the nudges. I cling to my plan, forgetting that I am part of a much grander one. She talks about the fact that, as your relationship with God matures, you learn to hear those nudges and understand them and listen to them. She talks about her friend Robert, who was a spy with the French resistance during World War II. And this is a true story, he used the alias Mr. Perizot. So Mr. Perizot was a spy, and everyone knew him. He lived a very dangerous life, never more so than the day the Nazis stormed his Paris office in the city's information center. Robert was sitting at his desk on the 4th floor when his secretary ran in, and she was panicked. And she said, "The Gestapo is downstairs, and they're asking for Perizot." Terrified, Robert grabbed his briefcase and he raced upstairs to the attic, and he crouched hidden in a corner. The Nazis would tear the building apart brick by brick, but he knew that they would eventually find him. Now, he wasn't afraid of death. He was afraid of the type of death he would receive at the hands of the Gestapo. In that moment of terror when he was shuddering in the corner, fearing that God had abandoned him, an idea popped into his mind. He had been reading how we can change our reality by changing our thoughts. And so he said, okay, well, God is always available. He started to think this, God is always available. God is not holding back from me. God loves me. God always wants to do the best for me. I hold back from God. So what I have to do is change me. I have to open up to the presence of God right now. God was always present. He had to be here, even in this moment. So he says, okay, there's another way to look at this. There's another way to look at this. But how? What if, what if? He's going, what if, what if? What if instead of seeing this as terrifying and being frozen in fear, I could think of something else? I could think, and then he was quiet for a moment. I could think this is a thrilling adventure. Well, tucked in the corner, terrified, he almost laughed out loud. How ridiculous is that? This isn't a movie. This is real life. I've got the Gestapo downstairs, and they're going to tear me from limb to limb. I am the worst, I'm the worst, their worst nightmare, and they want to kill me. They're going to kill me. But he knew if he didn't make a shift, he would remain frozen. So he felt God nudging him to action. Well, if this were a thrilling adventure, what would I do? If this were a thrilling adventure, if this were a movie, what would I do? What would I do? And he just kind of listened. Well, he said, I wouldn't hide. Because they would expect me to hide, and they would expect that they would find me. So I'm doing what they expect me to do. I have to do something that they don't expect me to do. What's the last thing they're going to expect me to do? And he felt another nudge. The last thing the Nazis expect me to do is to walk out the front door. So Robert got up, he slicked back his hair, he smoothed his jacket, and he casually lit a cigarette. And down he trotted with his briefcase to the 4th floor, where his secretary simply gaped at him. What's going on here? He demanded loudly, gesturing at the gun-toting Nazi officers. The secretary playing along said, well, they're looking for a Mr. Perizot, she said. Robert then said, Perizot, I saw him go out the back door. And whoop, the Nazis flew out the back, and the spy that they called Perizot went out the front door, hopped on his bike, and escaped. The possibility for escape always existed, but Robert Mueller, which is what his name, who would later become Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, would never have seen an opportunity without opening to the nudge from God. Later, he wrote 2,000 ideas and dreams for a better world. And he has recognized the hand of God and followed in the direction of it all of his life. It's a very extreme case. But how often do we find ourselves in what we sometimes think of as maybe life and death situations? Oh my God, oh my God. It's terrifying. It seems horrible. And can we then just stop and say, how can I look at this differently? What if this was an adventure movie? What if I'm the heroine or the hero. How can I look at this and do this differently? We are at choice. We can choose a different path. We can choose a different perspective. We can choose a different attitude. We can choose a different thought. And we have a friend who can help us do that. God brings us these ideas, these wonderful ideas, if we stop and listen. You can choose whether you listen to that inner voice. You can choose not to. That is your choice. But in so doing, you will live your life with your limited way of thinking and seeing. When you open up to this incredible friendship and relationship with God, you get to see and view all kinds of things previously not something you were aware of. Cultivate the relationship and build your faith. It's the most powerful and wonderful thing that we can do. And we are a choice to do. I want to close with something that Howard Thurman said. A man without God is like a seed upon the winds. You know a seed has life, it has potential to be, and yet caught upon the winds, it's just out there, tossed about by the currents, floating around not knowing where it's going to land. If you are with God, if you cultivate that friendship with God, then you are like a seed with its potential upon the divine wind, trusting you will be delivered to the perfect place, the perfect field, to the perfect relationship, and to the perfect deals or resolutions to whatever it is you are working on. It's up to you to take the time to make the connection and know Spirit, knowing God, is your very life. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what is happening. All that matters is you are not alone. You are loved. And you have the best, the most powerful, the most important friend